Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we are talking about the spell Scrying. Yes.
I'm looking at things. That's what Scrying
Yeah.
does.
All right.
Uh, with divine mind and binoculars, if you will. This is a 5th level spell, 10-minute cast time, ranges self, verbal somatic material components, Seas because it requires a focus worth at least 1,000 gold, such as crystal ball, silver mirror, or font filled with holy water. All of the tropes. Got 10-minute duration, concentration, divination school. You can see and hear a particular creature you choose that is on the same plane of existence as you. The target makes a whiz saving throw, which is modified by how well you know the target and the sort of physical connection you have to it. If a target knows you're casting the spell, it can fail the saving throw voluntarily if it wants to be observed. Notably, this isn't a ritual spell, which is a big bummer. So anyway, there's a giant table that tells you get a +5 modifier if you've only heard of the target, or it gets a +5 modifier to the save against you if you've only heard of it. If you know the target well, it gets a -5 modifier, and if you've met the target, it's a 0. Just like you don't know any more than just like I've met them, I shook their hand. That's all I know.
And if you have a body part, then
Yes.
+10 or -10,
Yes,
whichever.
there's a
Yeah.
table below that that has your connection to them. So if you have their likeness or a picture, they get a -2. If you have a possession or a garment of theirs, they get a -4. And if you've a piece of them,
A lung.
they get -10. Yeah, which means very likely this is going to be like they're gonna fail this most of the time if you've like ever engaged with them. On a successful save, it's not affected and can't be affected again for 24 hours. On a failed save, this spell creates an invisible sensor within 10 feet of the target that you can use to hear and see through. As if you were there. It moves with the target remaining 10 feet away from it for the duration. A creature can see invisible objects. A creature that can see invisible objects sees the sensor as a luminous orb about the size of your fist. Which notably means on Goliath is bigger than halflings. Instead of targeting a
Yeah.
creature, you can choose a location you've seen before as well. When you do, the sensor appears there, it doesn't move. So you can just put the sensor at a spot you've been. Neat.
That use seems like worse than Arcane Eye.
That seems like worse than Arcane Eye, I agree. But I think the big benefit Scrying gives you is it goes with the thing, so you like stick it on somebody and then you watch what they're doing
But
for
yeah,
10
if
minutes.
you're spying on a target, yes. But I mean, if you're just putting it somewhere, then
Yeah.
well, other comparisons to Arcane Eye, and what's the other one that we compared to Arcane Eye when we talked about Arcane Eye?
Fine
Uh,
familiar.
I don't, that's definitely up there, but I don't think there's. I'm thinking of one specifically for spying. Um,
um Arcane Eye is the physical eye that runs around, right?
right,
Clairvoyance, I think, is the
clairvoyance,
other.
maybe. Yeah,
God, I will say having done like doing these spell reviews has got me my brain just now knows these are all the spells that do this effect now, and I hate that. There's just so much garbage information here now about Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. It's great. There was always a lot of garbage information here about 5th edition. It's not just garbage. It's interesting. It's fun, but it's that space could be used for calculus or something. I don't know. But yeah, this does fit the clairvoyance kind of bucket. You make a sensor, you hear and see things. You get a visible sensor. I think clairvoyance is better than this. I think Arcane Eye is
they're
probably
both
better than
they're
this.
both concentration up to 10 minutes. Clairvoyance is a 3rd level spell. This is 5th level.
Yeah. Clairvoyance is like the scrying mode, but only is ever the place you've been. Is kind of the difference. And also, this is a big difference. Clairvoyance is only a range of a mile. Scrying is plane wide. So
Yeah,
scrying
yeah.
can be anywhere. Clairvoyance has to be within a mile of you, which does. I mean, that is a pretty large use case difference in big teleporty based, running around a huge area kind of gameplay that D&D tends to evolve into. So I think this like scrying is probably something you pick up whenever you're doing a lot of long rests and stuff. This is a bard, cleric, druid, warlock, wizard spell, so a lot of people get access to this. So this is something that you go, okay, one of us prepares this over our next long rest in between adventures, and we do some scrying with it. I think it's probably the real use case of it. I think if you're like a
Arcane Eye,
warlock or a bard, you probably don't want this, but like clerics, druids, and wizards have no real issue taking it.
Arcane Eye only has a range of 30 feet. So yeah,
Yeah,
if you're spying on somebody far away, then yeah, scrying's your option.
or even if yeah, Arcane Eye like if you I think you use Arcane Eye specifically when you're telling somebody. I think you use Scrying
Yeah.
whenever you need to follow somebody or are very far away from them, and you use Clairvoyance whenever you want to watch a specific scene. All three can kind of do all three. Scrying does all of them the best but costs the most. I think if you want to use scrying, you're probably doing it in between long rests where there's not necessarily you're not intending to use spell slots beyond that. And it doesn't really feel like it costs you that. This is more of an downtime exploration tool, I think, than an actual like tool you're engaging a dungeon with more often than not. It can engage a dungeon. I think if you're engaging a dungeon with it, Clairvoyance and Arcane are definitely better. And Find Familiar is better than all three of these. But like it's an entirely reasonable extra little option to have access to that I don't think hurts. I love the table. I don't think the table is very important, but I love that it's there.
Well, it's important if you have like a fingernail or something.
Sure.
Which, all right. Well, before we get into the table, how are you using this primarily?
I'm using it as a DM for my villains to make the party annoyed with me. That's mainly what it does. Those are the use cases I tend to see.
As a player.
As a player, so this is like you've met the villain and you're like, what are they doing right now? You more realistically, you've met the villain and where are they right now? Because you can't necessarily know there's going to be most of the time you can't know this is an important time for them to be doing something. You don't know if they're hosting like an important conversation or something. You can never really like discern exactly what they're doing, but this gives you a way to say, I see the thing, I know where they are, I know what they're about, and they don't necessarily know that they know what they're about.
It doesn't give you a location. You have to figure out where they are with context clues around you, right? I mean, if you see a beach, okay, they're on the coast somewhere. If you see a room, then if you see like a picture of their mother on the wall, then they're probably home. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
I think if you ever get like you're doing this like a lich and you see dark dingy room, you go, great, this is useless, right? Like I see the lich preparing his spells for the day. I see the lich, he probably doesn't need to eat breakfast. Doing his daily ritual spells to revive his undead minions, right? Like that isn't a particularly high use case for it. It's going to be very villain dependent. Still, like if you know there's a big like if there's a shindig going down where there's going to be some people talking and having some secret conversations and meetings and doing some nonsense, you want to be like, okay, I want to see who this villain goes and talks to. You can scry on them for the durations. They sneak around as they're going about their, their festivities, who they're sort of shaking hands with, who's, the secret Hydra agents, if you will. That could be a use case for it. Very niche. Again, I'm gonna level with you. I think I've seen Scrying cast like twice in my life. Whenever it wasn't a DM doing it. So like it's, I think, very difficult to weaponize in a way that's gonna often feel that great.
Because I was thinking, with they can choose to fail the save. If you can get an NPC like an inside man, the villain's cook or something,
sure,
to cooperate. So here, just give me some of your hair first, and then go to work.
I mean, if they're gonna fail the save anyway, you don't need some of their hair. I mean, unless you don't trust them.
Yeah.
If you don't trust the target, like you can, it's not hard to make this almost always succeed. If you ever meet them, you probably can get a bit of their hair, or a fingernail clipping or some gross other little bitty that you can use.
Right, yeah,
give them a -15 on the save. It almost always guarantees they fail it.
So if they're cooperating, don't cut their hair off. If not, maybe try and get some hair.
I will say this is a cute incentive back for DMs. If you've got a villain, make sure that their thugs get little, like, it'll feel weird to be like, the barbarian pulls some of your, like, the barbarian thug pulls some of your hair out and then leaves with it when they're on the retreat. And they'd be like, why the hell did they do that? That was mean. And it's because the evil villain needs to scry on them and needs a little bit of hair or whatever. You get a cute little plot device that way.
I was thinking the same thing for, just now this popped into my head. You're engaged with one of his minions, and you hold him, you chop off a finger, and they run back home to tell dad, this guy's hurt me, look what they did. Now you got a wealth of information.
I think this spell really rewards fun combat storytelling. So I love, like, narrating what happens whenever you punch somebody in the face, for example. So like if you get in like a tavern brawl fist fight with a guy, saying a tooth gets knocked loose suddenly matters a lot, right? Like someone literally losing a tooth at a punch and it flying across the room, find it. Get that tooth because you can use it for scrying. I
guess blood probably counts, right?
You stab them,
you get a good stab in, yeah. Wipe it off. Don't wash this.
Yep. It definitely also, like, that scratches my little, I want the occulty witch fantasy. I want the, bubble trouble doylen, whatever. You got your cauldron out and you're like scrying onto them and give me a little piece of their hair and it fuzzles up and get a little picture of them. That is very much this fantasy that I very much like. I know a lot of people that really like that fantasy too. This helps with that. Is it worth it?
Fifth level is pretty big.
Yeah, the other options that we talked about earlier are probably better than this. If you're a witchy character, you probably have a cat familiar or something that's gonna, if it's near you, it's gonna do a better job than this.
Yeah.
This is something you use like once or twice campaign as exposition. Your DM goes, you should scry on this person. Wink, 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 nudge, nudge. This person's going to this important event at this time. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Bust out that mirror, bust out that orb, do your scrying event thing, learn a little bit about, get your exposition dump there, and make it feel like you're the one who like overheard and got the information, got the quest this way. But I think a lot of the time, this is if your DM doesn't want to employ this tool, like work on their end to give you reasons to want to use this, scrying is going to be very hard to use effectively, just because like 95% of life, if not more than that, is just mundane nonsense. It's just like, I'm eating breakfast. I'm in the car commuting. I am reading in bed. Like, those are the circumstances that you're going to actively be scrying on if you pick it at a random time. And like you said, they're on a beach somewhere. I guess we're going to use context clues to try and figure that out. Who knows? It's going to be useful. I think the worst case, is like, they're in a dungeon somewhere. It's cold and dank and underground. Maybe that's not particularly useful. And then ultimately leaves scrying being like, in between long rest, expedition to gathering tool. Sure. Should you prepare this on a regular adventuring day? Absolutely not, because it's not going to do a whole lot there.
Yeah, fifth level is a bummer, and concentration up to 10 minutes. That's almost guarantees you're not going to get anything useful unless you know exactly when they're supposed to have an important conversation.
Yeah, like you have to have like the stopwatch out ready now, and then you're like 2 minutes prior to the event, you're there, you're ready for it, you're scrying.
Well, I don't know. You got a rating for this one?
I think it's 2. I think it's fun. I think when using the player's hands as an exposition gathering tool, I think it's fun. I think the minigame around the table is fun, although really pointless. Like, I think the vast majority of times, again, most things like 2/3 of the time are going to fail your saving throws anyway. Getting an extra -10 to that kind of just guarantees it. Sure. The worst case scenario is like you don't do the scrying thing, but that doesn't seem that bad. If you've met them, if you've like approached them, this is probably fine. If you've got a tiny bit of something about them, there's no issue with this whatsoever happening. That's it's fun, but not that impactful, largely because I don't think scrying is that impactful. So at some tables, maybe you are doing the espionage game. Maybe you're doing the game where you got dates and times and things lined up, and your DM's got a whole calendar that they've worked out as to where these different events and people are going to be, and they're super meticulous and have really deep, well-taken notes. Scrying can be really effective at that game. I don't think that's most games. Lord knows I'm not doing that much work to DM my tables. So like your mileage is going to vary with how usable the spell is. If you're a DM, I think it's really hard to use scrying and not feel like a dick, so I would recommend not doing it. So yeah, that's where I think I ultimately land on scrying. I think this is a 2 out of 5. I think it's pretty harmless to do in between long rests as expedition gathering tool, and that's about it.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I mean, like 90% of the time, you're just gonna see a mind flayer taking a dump. But
that does add to the world building richness.
Yeah.
What does a mind flayer toilet look like aboard? They're not Alloyed ships.
But I'm gonna give it an optimistic 3 and count on the beautiful commenters to justify that. Let us know in the comments how you've used scrying, how you've seen it used, why it's worth this 5th level slot.
Also, if there are any subclasses that like do cool things with scrying, that'd be cool to hear about too. I think I remember there being some that exist, but I can't remember off the top of my head. So if anyone gets it for free, it's a lot better.
Sure. All right. Well, that was scrying. Thank you, Sam, and thank you everyone for joining us. We will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it. A gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description, where you'll find my Caverns Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.